And every single day I go to work knowing that the organization has a choice to keep me or not to keep me.
Absolutely.
The question is, have I postured myself to be one that they cannot afford to lose? Because what I realize is that when you focus on value adding, there's no space for entitlement, and reward comes in. Reward comes in.
That's a word.
I hear people complain and say, the organization bought a car for this person, they didn't buy for me. Where we dig deeper. Even me, I won't buy you a car.
What have you done to develop yourself in those years?
No. What they've done is that they've worked in the organization for 10 years. That is sufficient.
No.
And promotion is not a reward for long tenure.
It has nothing to do with seniority. I don't know why we mix it.
Yeah.
So the star boy who came and they bought him a car, go check out what he has done. Go and see what he has done with his career. Look at the value you bring. And I tell people, 90% of the time, organizations are not stupid. 90% of the time, you may be worried that you're not getting the promotions. 90% of the time is because you're not bringing the value that they require.
And the funny part, I also realize that sometimes you may even have the value, but it's your responsibility to showcase that. Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of White Collar Gist. Today I have my friend and my sister Esther Ogunboye. Esther is the talent management lead at Dangote. We are both in the HR space. We are both career professionals. We share a lot in common. And I thought that for today's conversation, there was no better person to bring on board than Esther. So Esther, welcome to the show, darling.
Thank you for having me. I'm really proud of you, girl. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm so excited that I'm here.
Thank you. So today's edition, right? I wanted us to talk about a number of things now from the HR perspective, because we work with corporate organizations and we also work with career professionals. You run a recruitment and HR management consulting as much as I do. And we have had to deal with clients, individuals as career professionals and the likes. And there's so much, that goes on in the heads of the career professionals and then goes on in the heads of the organizations as well. So I thought it was important for us to have this conversation for people who may really want to know how organizations feel, and also for the organizations to know how career professionals feel. But before we go right into the conversation, I just want us to talk, just get like an icebreaker, get to know you a little bit better. So First of all, start with, do you have a favorite food?
Rice and stew.
Esther, that's not a favorite food now. That's just, I don't understand. Who has rice and stew as a
basic
food?
as it gets? After eating sushi,
rice and stew. I would never have thought. That's just it.
Everybody thinks it's something very easy. Rice and stew, hot on a rainy day, yes.
That's it. Wow. It's very easy to
cold Coke and Netflix.
Okay, so rice and stew, cold soda, and Netflix, and you're good.
Yes.
Perfect.
Beautiful.
One of the things I love about Esther is how authentic she is. So Esther is someone that I know the specific things that she just likes. When I think of a rainy day with a cup of cocoa, reading a book, that is Esther. And I love how you have owned your authentic self. You're not trying to be anybody else. You've just stuck to what works for you.
Absolutely.
Anyway, that was an aside.
Yes.
So let's talk a bit about your career journey. So walk me through university and how you got into HR and talent management.
That's a really good question. And every time I'm asked this question, I always remember someone, Ugochukwu Uzo.
Okay.
Ugochukwu Uzo was my brother's friend. At the time, I was schooling in Aberdeen at the Robert Gordon University, and Ugochukwu was a manager in Schlumberger.
Okay.
And I remember that I was working as a canteen girl in one of the branches. So, on a part-time role, going to work, serving breakfast, and going to school. And I had to do a project. So I remembered Ugo worked in Schlum. So I needed data. The name of that project was course Cultural Adjustment Amongst Expatriates. So they had expatriates, obviously, in Schlum, in Scotland. So I needed to find out how expatriates were adjusted culturally in Scotland and adjusted culturally in Nigeria and Africa.
Okay.
So Ugo was the perfect guy for me to ask for data, which he provided. And somewhere during that process, I would say, please, I want to work in Schlum. When I see the guys and the girls coming to work, it's just so cool. And they'll be like, yeah, right. Are you an engineer? And we will laugh. At this time, I had no ambition. I had no clue what I wanted to do. And I remember just coming back to Nigeria the day I arrived. 24 hours later, I get a call from my big brother, who obviously is Ugo's friend, and Ugo says there's a role for you in Cameroon.
No way.
You have to interview tomorrow. I packed up my things, went to the office. I even went without a CV. I don't know what I said. I don't know how I said it, but it worked. I got the offer. I resumed in Cameroon. I started my journey, but I started in the back office space, so employee support services, popularly called shared services. At the time, we were working for the region, Sub-Saharan Africa, out of Cameroon. And that's why I met Oyiko, my partner, at the HR breakout room. Wow. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful experience. Spent a couple of years in Cameroon, and then we moved to Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. Excellent experience as well, doing the same thing. And it was interesting working out of Kuala Lumpur for African employees. And I think at that time, we're talking 2013, 2014. This is where remote working had really started in some organizations. So you see how people move so much farther than the others. I always say that Shlom was in the future.
Wow.
And I finished that journey. I fell in love and came back home after getting married to my husband, Femi. I then had to sort of have a 6 months career break and then start afresh. And I started in the banking industry with Union Bank. Very interesting journey. I became an HR business partner. Now, what that did for me was it put me in the face of people. So working in the back end, remote locations.
Nobody knew you were
girl behind the computer. Yeah. Now I'm in front of you as an HR business partner. And I'm working with 4 EDs, executives director in the banking sector, which is one of the toughest sectors to be. I managed that experience, I dare say, excellently for 3 years. It was brilliant because I feel that role shaped me. I say everyone has to be an HR partner. I agree. You just have to go through that because that's how you see the organization. Prior to this time, you may only see the employees, and there is a danger, as you know. But I finished that journey, and then I moved to my current role with the Dangote Group as a talent management specialist. Amazing. What's interesting now is it's a middle office role. I'm not necessarily seeing the client's face. I'm not at the back end, but I'm now creating solutions, initiatives, and projects that the HR business partners can
work with. And this is interesting because one of the things I've appreciated about your journey is how God took you to the back, took you to the front, and brought you to the middle. And the funny part, you will thrive because you kind of understand what the HR business partners want because you've been in their shoes, you've walked in their shoes. So when you're developing products, it cannot but be good because you really understand what they need to be able to thrive in their role. Imagine if all you did was just back office.
See why I love you. I never thought of it like this.
Honestly.
Never, but that's so powerful. I'm going to steal that at the next time.
Okay, so... it's interesting to talk about your career journey in terms of you had aspirations. You wanted to work in this company, and then it did happen for you. And then you were thrown to work in different countries. How was it for you at the start of your career to be going to Cameroon and Kuala Lumpur? Or how? You were young.
Absolutely.
Weren't you scared?
And the funny thing is that is something that I look back in my past and I say I wish I was a bit more present. Indeed, I was scared, but I was also not present. I feel I had a lot of out-of-body experiences. So I'm in Douala, but I'm crying. I want to go back to Lagos.
So you didn't get to experience Douala?
No. So imagine being in Thailand on a girl's trip, but I'm pressing my phone thinking I should be in Lagos, dancing with my friends.
You're not really going to enjoy the trip.
No. So that's something that I deeply regret. The cultural aspect of soaking in that experience. And that's why if I have a chance, I want to do over at expatriation.
Amazing. So now that you're on the other side, now let's talk a bit about HR. So one of the things I've noticed when I'm having conversations with career professionals is they tend to think the organization just wants me to suffer. The organization is always demanding. The organization wants me to be a high-performing talent. The organization wants this. Meanwhile, I, the career professional, I want a promotion. I want more money. I want merit increase. I want a bonus. I want cost of living adjustment per annum. And I want us to kind of discuss things from the perspective of the corporate organization and then discuss things from the perspective of the career professional. So you have worked as an HR business partner. With your experience as an HR business partner, what was important to the business that they needed your people to be able to deliver on?
Profitability and revenue.
End of story.
It was as simple as that because we saw the books. We saw the profits, we saw the loss. We knew when we were deep in, we knew when we were profitable, and we knew what that meant in terms of sustainability. So all they wanted was to be profitable, to be able to keep paying this number of people who are so deserving salaries and bonuses.
Do you get to see career professionals concerned about profitability of their companies?
No.
In fairness.
No, not much. They're only majorly concerned when that is a target for them in terms of them being salespeople. On the average back office, what they call back office or middle office or functional roles are not as concerned. And even the salesmen believe that when they sell, they have done what no man can do. They forget that they were brought in to sell.
And it's interesting because when people are not in sales functions, they really are not thinking, how is my role contributing to the bottom line? It's good for you to want a salary increase. The real question is, do you know if your business is profitable? And if your business can afford to even give you that salary increase that you're looking out for? Now, in terms of the organization that is looking for profitability and all, one of the things I know that corporate organizations are saying these days is we want to build a high performance culture. We want people to come in and bring their A game. So being in HR now, what are some of the things that corporate organizations need to start considering in developing top talents within their business and building that kind of high performance culture?
So what you need to consider first is how you optimize your talent, and that's the truth. You need to figure out, do I need all these people or do I need some of these people? What percentage am I depending on to really bring me to the party? Not everyone is going to help you be profitable. Some people are there to help you keep the structure.
Exactly.
And you have to be comfortable with what that is. And that is why when you talk about the bell curve in talent management, performance management specifically, they tell you maybe only around 15% of your population will be excellent.
Exactly.
We expect about 45 to 50 to be your solid professionals in the middle, keeping the boat rocking. And we don't want to see too many people at the bottom marginally, but we don't mind them being there because we should manage them outward. If they continue being there, they should be leaving the organization. So now you see, you have to be strategic. You have to know who will bring in the bacon. You have to make sure they bring in the bacon. You have to know who will support the bacon. Those that are bringing in support from a support perspective may not necessarily be profitable, but can they help us optimize cost? So I give HR as an example. I may never bring in revenue, but how can I help save cost? Talent acquisition should stop hiring from outside as a first solution and begin to promote from within.
To save that hiring cost that you typically would have to expend.
Talent management should start looking at the talent pipeline, succession planning, and make sure that they have people ready now to be promoted into roles. If we are working together from that perspective in HR, we are manning our budget. We are being cautious with what our bottom line is. We are making sure that as talent management people, only excellent people get the bonuses. Bonuses are not given to everybody.
So because you reward based on performance.
Absolutely. We are saving costs. So you see, everybody must have a part to play. You are making money
or you're saving money.
You can't just be showing up.
And that's important because one of the things I realized that a lot of people struggled with is how valuable is my role to the organization? And most times people feel like those who are in the commercial, who are bringing in the money are the valuable people. Absolutely. But it's okay for you to be a solid professional. And when I think about the bell curve, most people want to be in the top talent pool. They want to be in the top, but not everybody. And I want us to talk a bit about the comfort of being a solid professional. The fact that you may not be the fee earner, but without you, that fee earner cannot even earn for the business.
Absolutely. If you're one of the problems that we have as well as managers is, and I think this is definitely a line manager problem, we do not put our talent in boxes. You see, when we talk about the bell curve or the 9-box grid, they think it's an HR thing, but it's not. It's for you. When I give you a report of your team and tell you where they sit on the 9-box grid, you should actually say, how can I make sure my star keep shining? And
how can I make this person who is a potential star become that star?
Absolutely. So managers need to also see where they are. If we utilize our resources optimally, I always say the same, we won't have a lot of laggards. And if we have laggards, they will show very quickly.
And you can exit them immediately.
So it's about knowing your talent. We always say know your talent is the first step. Do you know your talent? I give an example. When we did an exercise in my organization where we said people should go fill everything that had to do with their profile, we'll be amazed how many people spoke second languages.
Amazing.
A guy could actually speak, what did I speak in Japan? And that region, I can't remember what it is, but the guy could actually speak that, spoke it well. so many people could speak French. And we have an organization that cuts across Pan-Africa.
So when you're looking to hire someone, you actually have a Nigerian that you can actually second to a French-speaking country because the person can speak French.
Absolutely. And I think the banking sector they utilize resources very good from what I've seen. They're very great, banking and oil and gas, at using what they have. For someone leaves, let's calm down on that new hiring. Can Ivie now do that role?
Exactly.
Can we put her to act?
And I'm always very particular about corporate organizations giving opportunities to people internally first. I know that there's always the craze of, let's go and get somebody new, but I always feel like the people within your business have a lot to offer, but have you taken out time to know what they can do? So I think about myself, right? So while I'm in HR, I really do think that I'm good in business development. I think that I'm good in marketing because I started my career then, and I really do like to move people from point A to point B. So in terms of managing relationships, developing a business, marketing, that's how I built my side business. I have never had a marketer in my business, 100% from me. And I realized that there are many people that would be like me that are probably in one field now, but there's the potential to do more, but your corporate organization doesn't even know. And that brings me to the question of visibility. As a career professional, you work in an organization, you have these many parts. Who knows?
And that's a very good point. I always tell people, I said, drop shameless plugs. Just drop shameless plugs. I'll give a quick example. We recently launched our graduate trainee program. And I have conversations with them. So I have a talent management conversation with each of them who rotates in HR. And I try to describe football and talent management and show the similarities. Story for another day. We should do that podcast. It's so interesting. But every time I talk to them, we get all these insights. We share valuable insights. But one of them stunned me. So I was he asked me about my career journey, and I was talking to him, and I was talking about the roles I had been in without specifying where I had done them.
Okay.
And he goes, yes, you started a career in Schlong. And I was shocked. I'm like, that's
how did you know that?
So then you went to, because I went to research your LinkedIn when you came to class to speak to us on talent management, because I had initially gone to speak to them while they were in the school on talent management. And he followed my journey, not from a stalkish, weird way, but you could see he was invested in me. And what was interesting is, if I wanted to pick someone in HR to come and work with me, consider him.
That's the person.
So sometimes drop shameless plug. I always tell people, you like something someone is doing, does the person know? Have you sent a Teams message? Have you sent an email? Is the person's birthday? Did you say, I called to say happy birthday?
And I realize that career professionals are very entitled.
Oh my God,
why has the business not noticed?
Why?
By themselves? How now?
How?
The business is made up of people.
Absolutely.
People who would also miss things. It's your responsibility to sell yourself to the business.
You have to.
With my 9 to 5, I work at Sahara Group. And one of the things I particularly love about the business is the owners of the business believe in young people. And they believe that anybody can do anything. Esther, it's crazy. They throw you into a role without any prior experience. They believe you have what it takes. And I have seen people who have been in Sahara for 15 years, 16 years, who are leading businesses today. And it's not because they came from Harvard or they went to the best of the schools initially. All they had was that passion, the drive, the energy, and the willingness to say, whatever comes, I'm going to take it. But I love the intentionality of the organization in saying, you may not be perfect today, but we're going to throw you into tough challenges. We're going to develop you, and we're going to make you the kind of career professional that you want to be. And I truly believe that this is something that a lot of organizations should begin to emulate. Actually finding that raw gold inside of their people that may not be visible.
Absolutely.
And it's now your responsibility as well to say, I'm available. And, this reminds me of a conversation I had with someone I had on the show. And we were talking about the fact that a lot of times career professionals don't like uncomfortable situations.
No.
Esther, we want to work in the perfect company, have the perfect job, have the perfect line managers, earn the perfect salary, have the perfect benefits. And it's unrealistic.
Absolutely.
And I wanted us to talk a bit about that, because even in our journeys, we've not had it very perfect. You even had a great start. It's one-man business that I saw. I did not see multinational. But guess what? When I think back to my journey and how it started and how I got here, I can see the relevance of every single place that I have worked. And they were not always comfortable. But I realized that career professionals who work with us, want perfect conditions.
Eva, you're absolutely spot on. And I like that you look back at your journey and you connect the dots. Life is intentional. And if you're a Christian, you know that God is intentional. I think we're very entitled. And I think it's global. I don't even think it's a Nigerian thing. I think human beings are generally entitled. We don't ever see two sides of the coin. I was listening to a podcast that had Sarah Jakes on it, and she said something. So Krista Hazley was asking her, how do you cope? How do you survive this generation, and working with them is so tough? And Sarah says, the Holy Spirit was telling me recently that maybe I'm the problem, I'm toxic. Why do I need someone who will almost die because the person is working with me? And I found it
Should we go there?
No, let's not go there. Like, my chest was hurting. Because you think about it, we are so judgmental to our bosses, to our leaders, to our executives who pay us. I keep saying it, Alhaji Aliko Dangote pays over 40,000 people every month. But we have quite a lot to say as human beings. But I forget that if my nanny should tell me she can't come today, why? What kind of malaria is that one? That's my default. It's my default kindness. It's my default take 2 days off. But if I tell my boss that I have a headache, I expect her to say, take the week off.
Yeah.
So you see, we are unreal. When Sarah Jakes said that thing, it tugged at my heart. She said, we are all guilty.
Esther, recently I put out a post about the cycle of trauma. And workplace trauma is such a thing.
Yes.
And this thing you've said now has really pricked my heart again because, sometimes I'm in rooms and I hear people complaining about the organization bitterly. Now, let's be real. There's sometimes you have frustrating days.
Absolutely.
Even me,
yes.
I've had days where I'm like, these people are like this. Yes. But you know what? That's not the permanent state of my heart.
Absolutely.
It's not the permanent posture of my heart.
Absolutely.
Because guess what? They have a choice not to employ you.
Yes.
They have a choice not to keep you in the organization.
Yes.
I was having a conversation with one of my EDs one day. And I was saying to her how someone was so worried about the organization not liking him and all. And she was so confused because she said, if we don't think you're valuable, we'd have fired you. It's that simple. And every single day I go to work knowing that the organization has a choice to keep me or not to keep me.
Absolutely.
The question is, have I postured myself to be one that they cannot afford to lose? Because what I realize is that when you focus on value adding, there's no space for entitlement and reward comes in. Reward comes in.
That's a word.
I hear people complain and say, the organization bought a car for this person. They didn't buy for me. Where we dig deeper. Even me, I won't buy you a car.
I'm always jumping out of my seat because a few weeks ago, we celebrated HR Day. And we had the first HR Open Day at my organization. So I had all these employees coming at an open clinic for career advisory, and it was brilliant. We had booths, and we sat in, and people just walked up to us. A couple of people complained that they had not gotten promotion in years. When we dug deeper, what have you done to develop yourself in those years?
No. What they've done is that they've worked in the organization for 10 years. That is sufficient.
No.
And promotion is not a reward for long tenure.
It has nothing to do with seniority. I don't know why we mix it.
Yeah.
So the star boy who came and they bought him a car, go check out what he has done. Go and see what he has done with his career. Look at the value you bring. And I tell people, 90% of the time, organizations are not stupid. 90% of the time, you may be worried that you're not getting the promotions. 90% of the time is because you're not bringing the value that they require.
And the funny part, I also realize that sometimes you may even have the value, but it's your responsibility to showcase that. So a couple of days ago, I was having a conversation with one of our business leaders, and I had to have this conversation because I realized that because of the nature of my role, I had employee experience, right? And a lot of times when people think of employee experience, they're thinking of engagement activities. And somewhat, I think I was branded as an event planner. And Esther, the thing really got to me. Because I'm thinking there's so much more to my work than planning an event. Planning an event is the icing on the cake. But
Absolutely.
the cake itself, there's a lot of work. And I realized, Ivy, maybe you haven't done enough to show the work that you do. Maybe the work that is visible to them is the event planning.
Yeah.
And if that is not the case, if that's not the real work, you have the responsibility to actually show the business what you're doing. And it was food for thought because I have been comfortable. I have lived in the fact that everybody knows me now. They know me. They know what I do. I attend meetings. Do they really know what you do? And so when a promotion opportunity comes up, will someone say yes? Because think about it. If all they think I do is event planning, why do you want to be made an AGM?
Absolutely. So
Why?
powerful.
And it's interesting because most career professionals are waiting for organizations to hand things over to them without actually putting in the work to say, you know what, I deserve this. And I find that sometimes when I'm counseling and coaching, I have career professionals that I'm like, you need to place a demand on your organization for this because you have these achievements, but you've never recorded them.
Ivy, that's a word because, and I don't want to get into the gender conversations, but I have to give men a shout out at this point. I remember a guy was telling me, he came, we have a certain promotion principle. Sometimes exceptions are made. An exception was made for him. And I remember because he had a visible achievement. He had helped us get in some funds. So it was visible. So obviously nobody raised an eyebrow when the promotion happened for him. It was great. But he was telling me in retrospect that he went to his manager to say, hey, by the ways, I know that I'm not due, but if this doesn't happen for me now because of what I've done, I would leave.
Is the confidence for me?
He did this in the background, and that's why his name was pushed.
Is the confidence for me?
Is the confidence for me? The average woman, no.
And it's interesting because these are conversations. We keep hearing about gender bias. And for the longest, I used to say, well, we don't have a gender bias issue here. But actually we do, because I realized that men are more confident and audacious to make demands for certain things for their careers than women.
It is. Absolutely.
Wow. Now, just thinking back in terms of the journeys that we have both had, we both pivoted to actually running businesses while we've had our 9-to-5. And I can dare say that I have never given any employer of mine reason to be worried about my side hustle, because I have given my 9-to-5 employers priority. And I want us to speak about that sense of integrity. Because, career professionals, again, today is not about bashing you guys, but we have to be real.
We have to be.
I realize that there's a lot that we demand without actually following through on our own part. And I want us to talk a bit about the part that you have to play. Forget the organization now. What part do you have to play?
So how I see it is, and I always tell people, I say that you are an entrepreneur. I do not believe that there's anyone that is not an entrepreneur. It depends on what you're selling and who you're selling to at the time. So think about it. I have sold to Schlum. I have sold to Union. I'm now selling to Dangote. I will definitely sell somewhere else in my career journey. So we're already entrepreneurs by standard. And I promise you, you can have multiple roles. You can have a single role. You can have a side gig if it's allowed in your organization. You can have something that you have passion for, etc. But you have to remember that your brand is your identity. When you're so mediocre in your 9-to-5 job, you're so mediocre. You do it so poorly. And maybe you give in your own mind 100% to your side gig, or your passion, or your volunteer work, whatever it is. One day they will both mix. What that means is that there will be something you will now need today, tomorrow, in the future, or someone, or maybe even to use the 9-to-5 job to gain credibility. You won't be able to, because your reputation there is so terrible. You're an HR person, you know how many people we hear about. You know how many times people call us to ask of personal references. There are many cases where you say, I can't comment.
You know what, Esther? In fact, this is so interesting. So I was handling a private recruitment recently for a head of HR position. Interviewed 3 beautiful ladies. And when I was having a conversation with one, she mentioned where she worked, and I happen to know people that work there. Esther, I kid you not. After I had the conversation with her, I'm like, okay, let me just go digging. And the feedback was so bad. But I was turned. I was like, sometimes we get judged unfairly. Maybe it's not really true. But you know what I realized? I said, look, if I've spoken to 3-4 people in your organization and they are saying the same thing, and it is possible it is not true, you have also done a poor job in ensuring that. Because you know how some people can say, so I think I'm very self-aware. And I know my shortcomings. I know my weaknesses. I truly believe that if somebody was going to describe me, they would say things like, which I'm working on myself, but I'm going to be real. They will say things like, when it comes to the work, passion and doing the work, yes. But when it comes to relationship with people, no. And for the longest, I didn't care. I used to say, I don't care. You don't have to like me. Not everybody likes this. But you know what? I realized eventually 2 things. Number 1, it was important to God how I treated the people that I worked with.
Word.
And for the longest, I felt, you know what? I'm helping you by being mean and cold and all. But I realized that even my approach was important to God. The second thing I realized is that I will not always be in rooms to explain myself. I'm having a conversation with a direct report. I'm raising my voice. I'm lashing out. Somebody walks in. They don't know what happened before, but they're going to only make a decision based on what they witnessed. And I will never be in the room to be able to defend myself and say, actually, this is what happened. So when I thought about the lady, I said, you know what? She has the responsibility to also ensure that even if people generally are making up stories about me, they should still be able to say when it comes to the work, she's good, but she just doesn't know how to manage up. I remember one time I attended an event by Tara Fela Durotoye, and Tara was saying that for the longest, she didn't know that people felt some sort of way when she approached them. And she said it was her friend, T.Y. Bello, who told her that when you come to the office, this is how your staff feel about you. And she was confused, like, why would they feel that way? But she said what? She said she took it. And this meant that when she walked into the office again, she had to make an extra effort to be more pleasant because her natural disposition didn't come across that way.
So powerful.
But someone else would say, that is my disposition. They either like me or they don't like me. And this continues to really affect people's reputations in the organizations. And this is a great way for us to get even into this whole thing about our character, competence as believers. Esther, you're my sister. And I know our faith journeys. And one of the things that I know that really used to break my heart a couple of years ago, before I really grasped the concept of grace and the gospel, was whenever my character did not align with who a believer should be. Esther, I can be depressed for 2 weeks. I won't want to go to work.
I'll be done some things where I'm just like, oh, God.
I'm like, and I used to struggle because I'm like, I'm the light of the world. The Bible says that I am the temple of God. I carry the life of God in me. How can you say that you're a believer and yet these words came out of your mouth? And I used to struggle until I began to understand the concept of grace. That first of all, God is not even surprised at you. And I want us to talk a bit to believers in the workplace today about how this journey with God is a consistent journey that we need to continue to fine-tune because people are looking at us and are trying to see Him, but they can't because of how we behave.
Whew. Gosh, this tugs my heart in so many ways, Evie. Because, you know, I'm vulnerable. I'm always very authentic about my journey and my struggles, right? I'm very firm. I'm firm. I know that for sure. And I don't look for words. So if there's something, I have enough words to explain what it is very clearly. Sometimes it's not very pleasant to listen to. And I struggled with that because I know that I felt that people were a little intimidated with me speaking because I will tell you exactly what you've done. I don't care who you really are. It doesn't matter to me what you are, who you are. You will hear. But as I've grown spiritually, not even with age, to your point, it's the Holy Spirit has led me to understand that you have to lace your words with wisdom without changing your core. I am assertive and I am firm. And I'm great for leadership in the marketplace because that is what I have been called to do. I've been called for leadership in the marketplace as a child of God is my purpose. Now, I need to be firm and I need to be able to use my words clearly. However, so that God can be glorified, I must lace it with kindness and love. So if I have a firm conversation with you, I would then tell you, I use the boy that works with me, Taiwo, I love him. So I would say, Taiwo, you are still my brother. I still love you, but we have to fix this because I believe you are going somewhere and that journey will not with me. So you must succeed. So ultimately, I make him see, even though I have been firm and direct, I sandwich it with love and I let him know that I'm invested in his journey. Then being a Nigerian boss that I am, I will find a way tomorrow to hang out with him crack a joke, soften the blow.
Understanding the culture of where we
of where we are. And if I need to be sorry, I will be sorry.
Yeah.
And I focused on just maturing in love versus beating myself for where I think I haven't handled myself as a Christian.
And you know, that's interesting. And I love that you've been able to crack that, because what used to happen to me was self-condemnation. Yes. I used to self-condemn. Like, you say you're a believer, you say that you spoke on the spirit on the way to work, then your direct report did something, and this is how
flipped.
And I had to begin to extend grace to myself, and I learned to surrender my weakness to the Lord. Yes. And I would say to God, God, you know that I don't like to speak to this person like this. Help me. And you know, the Lord began to really help me to see things. I began to realize that there are many ways to still get the same traction. You don't have to shout. Like, you don't have to yell at somebody. Now, there are days, because I'm human, I'm not perfect. There are days I lose my cool. I'm under pressure from my own line manager, and I've given you a task to do. You're not pulling your weight, and I lose my cool. But I have learned to accept the gospel of grace. You know, one of the things people don't realize is that when you become a believer, when you accept Jesus as your Lord and your Savior, your mind and your soul doesn't change. It's your spirit that changes. Yeah. So you now have a new spirit. You are now a new person because your spirit is the real you. But the external, the body is still the same. You now have the responsibility to begin to fine-tune. So I think about it in terms of a phone. You know, you can change the SIM card inside, but the pictures in the phone will remain the pictures in the phone.
Absolutely.
Even if the SIM card has changed.
Absolutely.
And that's what happens. My spirit is now rejuvenated. I'm born again. But the external is still the same. And now I have the responsibility to begin. And this is important, because when I was going to start this podcast, I was a bit like, if you don't go and make it a church thing now, you're not a minister of God. But I realized that, look, we believers, we cannot operate in the workplace like people that are not believers.
No.
Whether we like it or not.
Absolutely not. And because, you know, I'm learning, even we're talking about this, to realize that everything is for His glory, for His will. And I remember that we're making a transition journey as a family, as you know. And I remember my husband and I were talking about the will of God. And if there's one thing that I possess, I will open a door for everybody to pass. Like, I won't shut the door. And then I will ask the last person to open another door for more people to pass. I'm that girl. And my husband said, maybe the Lord, because He sees who you are, has called you for leadership globally so that you can open more doors for people. So even though I will be firm, I will be assertive to get to where the Lord is taking me, I will have to remain in love so that my message can be passed consistently. I don't want my firmness and assertiveness to stop the doors being opened. Somebody will not be able to open another door because I've broken him or her so much. They can't open the door and the journey can't continue for many more people behind. Another thing that I said recently at work, we also launched the anti-bullying campaign at the Dangote Group, and that was so powerful. While we were going around talking about anti-bullying, I asked the question, if we were in London today, if they moved our office to London, how are we going to speak to each other?
You know, I thought about it recently, and I said, you know what? Those of us, like my former me, those of us that used to behave a certain way, we know how to behave right.
Absolutely.
We do know. If we change the location, suddenly we can be soft-spoken.
Once we get to London, good morning, have you had tea?
Yeah.
But we're here now, we're screaming at people. So again, there is the God part to play, but there's also the sense of responsibility. And I think everybody should be accountable.
Wow. Esther, you know, this conversation is very timely for me because I continue to evolve and transition on a daily basis. I'm very self-critical. Like, I never feel I'm good enough. I never feel I'm good at, like, people that are really close to me. I know. So people that are really close to me would always, they're confused, but I'm very self-critical.
But I get that.
I don't tell myself that I'm perfect at something already. I always feel like, no, there's still something. And because of that, I realize that I'm consistently trying to evolve and work on myself. And I've really enjoyed a lot of help from the Holy Spirit in terms of my career. And I'm just really grateful that we even have that sisterhood to be able to have these conversations, because Esther is the friend that I have that I'm having a bad day, I'm calling Esther. I want to vent, I'm calling Esther. We want to talk on good days, I'm calling Esther. And it just feels really good. And I appreciate you for that, authentic. And I've never felt judged by you. No. I can call you and tell you the most stupid thing, and you're not going to say, how dare you. What you would just say to me is, oh yeah, let's have coffee. Let's talk about it. Let's strategize. And everything moves on. And I appreciate that.
And you know why it's so powerful that you say that? And I'm laughing when you say that you do have imposter syndrome is because, and I hardly say this, I struggle with imposter syndrome, and I've always struggled. And I say to people that are close to me, as you know, I say, I think I'm great because people said so. Oh. Which is so weird. So I didn't wake up thinking I'm a star. No, I've gotten validation. That's why I think, there's something here. And I'm grateful to God that I've been validated by people who did not validate me and not validate me until I grew to become confident in my journey. Yeah. So to the point of people that look confident on the outside seem to have it going, imposter syndrome is real.
It's real.
It's real.
It's interesting because this was where I wanted us to go to close the show in terms of that self-confidence, because we can't live our lives waiting for validation by people. Absolutely. One of the things I'm telling myself these days is, look, you're never going to be perfect in the eyes of everybody. You can only continue to do your best. People are going to look at you and say, she's not as smart as she thinks. What is she even saying? She's not the best at her job. She still made an error in that email. She's still this. But there will be the people that would celebrate you. So you need to get to a point where you can celebrate yourself and applaud yourself. But that's why self-awareness is important, guys. And this is where I want to close. And like I always say, I pride myself on self-awareness. There's nothing you're going to tell me about me that I don't already know. I may ignore working on it, but I'm 100% aware that these are my shortcomings. But one thing I do know is that I'm committed to evolving every day. And as career professionals, we need to be intentional about that. Evolving can mean stopping certain habits, learning new habits. It can mean unlearning certain things and relearning new things. It can be that you're great at the work that you do, but you just really know that you're not great at visibility. It can mean that you need to work on networking. It can be that you need to stop talking to people a certain way. It could be many things, but you need to work on being self-aware enough for you to be intentional about building the kind of life that you want. Esther spoke about brand identity, Esther, yes. And I want you to close on that. As a career professional, this thing of our brand identity is extremely important, whether you're a believer or not. There are people that their brand in your organization is that they are irresponsible and it's their brand. There are people that, when they want to get work done, I'm calling this person. Let me not even waste my time. That's a brand. And I want you to just close on how important it is for us career professionals to work on that brand.
Thank you so much, Evie. So the truth is, your brand is everything because you have to remember that you are an entrepreneur. You do not work for anybody. Technically, you work with them, but that won't always be the case. What are you selling? You are selling your brand. It's not a one-size-fits-all. Decide what works for you. Decide what you enjoy and stick with it, own it. So the truth is, I will be firm. Esther will get the job done properly. She will get to the end of the result firmly. Nothing will spoil along the way. Love may not be the first brand that you associate with me, but if you work with her, you will start to see the fruits of the spirit. For some people, they are kind, but the job may not get done. But they're very kind and they're very loving. Love is all you see, but the job may suffer. You decide. For some others, they're creatives. Yeah. Very creative. They don't want to talk to nobody. Wear their headphones and get the job done. Creatives, call them. For some, they're salesmen. They can talk and tell Eskimo to buy ice and they will buy. The choice is yours, but be authentic. Let it be something that is really you. Don't wear another brand because you can't survive. Wow. But let it be a good brand. Have a top brand, your comfort zone, your identity, and work on the rest.
Thank you, Esther. Thank you for coming on the show, my sister. I appreciate
for having me.
I know, of course, you're in my life forever, yes. But thank you again for honoring me with this as well. You could have said no, but you didn't.
Never, ever.
And guys, that brings us to the end of this particular episode. Thank you again for watching. I appreciate it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm just learning those things now. They've warned me that I don't say such things, but please don't forget to like and subscribe. And remember again that your brand says a lot. You need to ask yourself, who do I want people to say that I am? I remember having a conversation with my mom many years ago, and she said to me, when you die, what do you want your husband to say? What do you want your children to say? What do you want your colleagues to say about you? If what you want is you want them to say that you're a top performer, you're reliable, you were dependable, you were someone they could trust with work, you were excellent at the work, then begin to put in that work, because everything that you desire is possible. Thank you. Have a good day.
This is White Collar Gist, where we share inspiring stories and strategies for building the people side.